What's up guys, Howdish here, and today we're jumping in with another Destiny 2 Heresy video as we head into the third week of the episode. So in this one we're going to round up a handful of updates from Bungie, many of them pertaining directly to the weekly reset stuff. But on top of that we'll round up some content for the week, additional quests that we'll get access to, and extra Heresy rewards. On top of that we have the return of Iron Banner, so we'll cover some of the additional drops there, fixes that we should be seeing this week, and the return of contest mode for Sundered Doctrine, as well as a handful of other items. So if you guys enjoy this one, a rating below really helps us on the channel, but now let's get into it. And so first up, let's round up some heads up from Bungie here. Bungie Help said they deployed a hotfix that has enabled Finality's Augur to drop in the Sundered Doctrine dungeon. Last week, of course, many days after contest mode, it turned out the exotic wasn't actually dropping whatsoever, so a lot of players had somewhat wasted runs, I guess, in the hope of getting that exotic, but it is now fixed, and so with the weekly reset, that'll mean another opportunity to get it. Separately though, Bungie had said they're planning an additional opportunity for Guardians to attempt contest mode in Sundered Doctrine, and the target for that is Saturday, February 22nd, so that'll be this weekend, starting at the daily reset time, where Bungie plan to re-enable contest mode for 24 hours. They've said in that time, players can get the contest mode Triumph, Emblem, and the guaranteed drop of Finality's Augur. So if you didn't manage to do it before, with the PlayStation outages or anything else, or if you want a second opportunity at it, it will be live, but this time for just 24 hours. So keep that in mind for the weekend, and another update that Bungie hope to get into players' hands this week, but they said they hit a hurdle deploying the memento for Salvation's Edge to players last week, and the hope is to resolve that and send it to players this week. So I think it was for players who had completions of Salvation's Edge in general, the goal was essentially to give all of those players a memento because it wasn't dropping correctly before. So hopefully we'll get that one, and while Trials won't be live this week because we've got Iron Banner, Bungie did say that they fixed the issue where it required Lightfall instead of the final shape, and on top of that they fixed one where alternate characters weren't able to launch into Trials if your main completes a passage with a 7 win streak. So the good news is, at least when it does return, those particular issues should be resolved. Getting into some of the content for this week though, we're going to see the last set of steps for Heresy Act 1, and after this reset, we'll have I think 3 quiet weeks before the start of the next act. However, this week we're going to get some side quests which will be interesting, and they're referred to as Hive hacking missions. Best I can tell, we're essentially going high value target hunting, and there'll be 3 quests that drop alongside the main story thread, which upon completion can drop seasonal gear, I think both weapons and armor, as well as additional sigil shards and Essence of Desire, so they're going to be generally useful, but there's also a triumph for the completion of all 3 of them, which rewards an interesting item actually introduced into the game during Warmind, and this thing never dropped. It's called the Ruinous Flame, and it's a relatively basic legendary ship. It's literally had no drop source for all these years, but according to the database, has been added for the reward for this particular triumph. So it isn't especially fancy, but I suppose it's a bit of a relic of the past. And so that will be a reward this week. Otherwise, that's all we're really anticipating from the Heresy reset. Of course, surprises are possible, like we saw last week with Barrow Dyad, so we'll have to wait and see, and I'll keep you posted at reset. The final thing to mention here though, is that Iron Banner returns this week for the first time in the episode. Keep in mind, Iron Banner will now feature 3 times per episode again, instead of just 2, and that the event will last for 1 week instead of 2. And there are a couple of new rewards for this episode. So firstly, we have the Saladin's Pride emblem, which will be a rank reward from Saladin, as well as a new shader, which is called Banner's Bearer. So a couple of additional drops there. Otherwise, new rewards from the last episode, things like Tenacious Mastery and Archon's Thunder, will still be available. Tenacious Mastery is one of the best weapons in the game really, legendary wise, so another opportunity for it if you didn't get one or perhaps haven't got the rolls that you wanted. Also, we can still earn the Iron Banner armor that was introduced to last episode. On the gameplay side though, Bungie are introducing the Quick Play Rotator for Iron Banner, and so it will now be broken up into 2 playlists, each one replacing an existing node on the Crucible Director. And they say Iron Banner Quick Play is the new home for Eruption, Fortress, Tribute, and eventually Rift. It'll feature open skill matchmaking utilised by other quick play playlists instead of the outlier protection used for Control and Iron Banner Control. So it's essentially going to be the party-oriented Iron Banner mode, which may turn out to be a little bit more casual. We'll see how that pans out. But new rewards this time around, or at least the singular new weapon, is the Warlord Spear, which is an arc trace rifle. Of course, we've had 3 new trace rifles this episode, but for Warlord Spear, the first trait slot can get dynamic sway reduction, as well as Envious Assassin. Then there's high impact reserves, rewind rounds, hipfire grip, and loose change, with the second slot able to get desperate measures, killing tally, plus there's jolting feedback, target lock, 4th times the charm, and detonator beam, where sustained damage creates an explosion around the target. And that's quite a good new perk. Obviously, we can focus on stability or ammo bonuses in one way or another, Envious Assassin if you want very significant magazines, and, of course, the damage bonuses like killing tally, but jolting feedback could be pretty good, as can detonator beam, plus for Skulking Wolf, the origin trait, PvE combatants now become less accurate when targeting you. That got an update for PvE this episode. So there'll be a bit more appeal there, and let us know if it's a weapon you're interested to go after. Otherwise, Bungie updated the Peace Bond, which is an adaptive burst stasis sidearm, and you can get Headstone Rhyme Stealer as a combo. The first slot also has Moving Target, Lone Wolf, Rangefinder, Subsistence, and Zen Moment, and the second slot can additionally get Desperate Measures, Headseeker, Desperado, Frenzy, and Kill Clip. Plus it still has the origin trait for Iron Banner, so between the new stuff and the things that were introduced last season, I'm sure there'll still be plenty of players hunting things down in the Iron Banner this week, so let us know if that'll be you in the comments section. Otherwise, a very final mention for some known issues in the game at the moment as we head into the reset. We're not sure when the next patch is scheduled for the game, potentially later on this week. If not, it'll probably be early next week, but in the Nether, Bungie say sometimes the Tome of Want Primer quest doesn't progress after meeting Step 3 and Step 4 requirements. I had a lot of questions about that one because the quest just wasn't progressing for many players, so it is a known issue and it will randomly make progress. Otherwise, they say the bolt charge boon descriptions should say, at maximum charge, any ability damage will generate a powerful bolt of arc lightning at the target's location. Otherwise, several lines in each language from Memory of Savathun, Oryx, and Xivu are cut off or not played at all. Plenty of dialogue weirdness this episode. Otherwise, for Sundered Doctrine, Bungie say when damaging Shrieker bosses, players receive critical damage feedback, but damage is actually regular base damage. Otherwise, when tracking Akora's Drowning Labyrinth quest, completion of certain steps may stop progress on the next step, and upon a player reaching the rally banner for the second boss, previous areas will become soft kill volumes which may kill teammates who are behind. Then on weapons, class-specific weapons, including swords and glaives, can be used with any class that currently isn't intended. Otherwise, the new competitive weapon, Redrix's S-Stock, can only be earned once in the first week when doing placement matches. But additionally, crafted VOG weapons incorrectly allow deep sight harmonizers to be used, so keep that in mind, avoid using them, obviously, and for the Fatebringer Time Lost, it doesn't have a socket for mementos. Otherwise though, the Discord and Harmony perks count down before the player switches to the necessary weapon. On top of that, they recognise that the Tempest Strike Hunter aspect doesn't activate Nightmare Fuel perk on the Sealed Ahamkara Grasps, and that the Blight Ranger's exotic perk doesn't trigger Bolt Charge when cancelled. Otherwise, memento shaders can be previewed on armor, but they aren't being considered for use on armor, as it isn't intended, and otherwise Grandmaster Triumphs reference a previous episode. So a few things to be aware of there, and plenty of fixes for Bungie as always. But for today guys, that's what we have to speak about. So as always, I hope you found this video useful. If you have, a rating below really does help us on the channel. Also be sure to get subscribed, and I can keep you posted with more Destiny content. But otherwise, cheers for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.